Hello everyone and welcome to today's video. Today I'm doing a little bit of a breakdown of an earlier article and some updated news about this that I've seen come out just as the time I'm recording this in the last few hours. So you may not be aware that in 2026, Republican Senator of Texas, John Cornyn, is up for re-election and has stated he will be running for re-election. For some time now, there's been a rumor that Attorney General of Texas, Ken Paxton, has been a potential primary challenger for him. I'm going to read this article first, and then remember to stay tuned for this because I do have some very important news and updates about this. So, after ending this year's brutal primary season, Texas Republicans are bracing for another bruising primary, pitting Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton against U.S. Senator John Cornyn in 2026. The two politicians, titans in Texas Republican politics, have been circling each other for more than a year, setting up a potential clash that would test the power of Paxton's appeal to hard-right conservatives and Cornyn's strength as a well-funded incumbent and prolific vote-getter. A Paxton-Cornyn showdown would be the next step in a continuing power struggle within the GOP. If Paxton gets in, expect another real Donnybrook in the primary, said Republican political consultant Vinnie Minchillo, who worked on the presidential campaigns of U.S. Senator Mitt Romney. Minchillo said Texas politics is defined by a three-party system, with most of the action between conservatives with dueling agendas. We have the Democratic Party, and we have two halves of the Republican Party, he said. This would be a real throwdown between two halves of the Republican Party. Cornyn and Paxton have strengths and weaknesses with Republican voters. Paxton has cast Cornyn as not conservative enough to represent Texas in the Senate, and some conservative activists have criticized Cornyn's efforts to find bipartisan solutions on issues like curbing gun violence and immigration reform. Cornyn has cast Paxton as too shady to be a U.S. Senator, an argument that could appeal to Republicans who worry about Paxton's legal entanglements and past controversies, including his 2023 impeachment on charges of bribery and misuse of office. The biggest wild card in all of this involves the influence of President-elect Donald Trump, who endorsed Paxton in prior elections, criticized last year's impeachment proceedings, and praised Paxton as a patriot fighting, quote, radical left Democrats. Trump in 2020 endorsed Cornyn for re-election as well, though. Paxton has had Trump's back as well, filing legal briefs in support of Trump policies under attack by Democratic states during his first White House term, asking the U.S. Supreme Court to overturn Trump's defeats in 4 states in the 2020 election. You will have to ask yourself, will Trump weigh in on the race, Minchillo said. Cornyn was a finalist to become Senate Majority Leader, but lost to John Thune of South Dakota. After his mid-November defeat, Cornyn said he would run for re-election in 2026. I think about somebody like Phil Gramm, who's my predecessor, who even though he wasn't elected leadership, was always in the middle of some of the hardest issues that confronted the Congress, and was a warrior. And I think it's a pretty good role model. Some Republicans say Cornyn is still examining how he'll approach his political future. He's taken a spiritual approach, one Republican said. I texted him that I was disappointed that his colleagues did not recognize the value of his experience in leadership and integrity, and I said, I know God has a plan for you, said Denton Commissioner Diane Edmondson, a Republican. He sent me back and said, yes, I'm waiting for the signals on that now. Paxton has said he's considering challenging Cornyn in the 2026 primary, but Texas Republican Party Chairman Abraham George says he doesn't expect to see a Cornyn-Paxton matchup. I doubt that's what's going to happen. I don't think General Paxton's going to challenge John Cornyn, George said. That's just my gut feeling. Paxton's office did not respond to a telephone call and an email request for comment. Mark Davis, a conservative radio talk show host based in Dallas, said Cornyn's prospects for re-election revolve around how he handles Trump's agenda and political appointments. If he is a good soldier, not an obstructionist, not an annoyance to the Trump agenda, then he'll be very hard to beat, even by someone as popular as Ken Paxton. If Cornyn objects Trump's nominees and then proceeds to do other things that reveal a certain distance between him and Trump, that will be all Paxton needs to be motivated to take him on. There's still no guarantee that I'll be successful, but it'll be a battle of titans that'll show where we are in 2026. So that's where the main purpose of the article for me ends right here, because this sets up this potential primary challenge between Senator Cornyn and Attorney General Paxton. And I have some very breaking news coming out of the America Fest conference by Turning Point USA from an account on Twitter where Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton indicated he's looking at challenging Senator John Cornyn in the 2026 GOP primary. I can't play the video for copyright reasons, but a very important quote takeaway was he said, quote, "Who would want me to run? I'm talking to a lot of people in Texas. Ask me that question in a couple of months, and I'll have a different answer." So it certainly seems like for 2026, we know John Cornyn's running, and Ken Paxton, at very least, is considering running, maybe even leaning towards definitely running. And as the article mentions, this would set up a very fascinating primary between our incumbent U.S. Senator, who has served for a very long time, going back since 2002, going up against the Attorney General of Texas, who has long been backed by the president-elect, now going to be the president of the United States, Donald J. Trump. And it's important to mention that the state of Texas did just vote for Donald Trump 56% to 42%, a 14% win after looking back in 2020, where we did see this race go for Joe Biden. So it's really interesting that this potential matchup of Cornyn versus Paxton, the ball's essentially in Cornyn's court if Trump will actually support Paxton in a primary challenge, or maybe if Trump will try and talk Paxton out of it. There has been some rumblings Cornyn has not been on board with a lot of Trump's nominees, and considering how Cornyn votes for those nominees may be an indicator of what Trump may do in supporting Paxton in this primary. I don't think we're really looking at the scope of this, saying that if Paxton runs, there's a very real chance Trump endorses him against Cornyn to try and put someone who's more friendly to the president in the Senate in Texas. Looking back at some of the recent Senate elections we did see, back in 2020 when Cornyn was last on the ballot, he won by about 9.6%. We did have another Senate election just happen in 2024 in Texas, where Ted Cruz won by about 8%. So both of these cases would be considered likely Republican wins in the state of Texas. So for what that means for 2024 is right now Democrats have 45 seats, Republicans have about 41, and I meant to put Ohio back to likely Republican, excuse me. Texas right now would probably start out as about a likely Republican state with either Paxton or with Cornyn. But I really don't think either candidate, when it comes to a general election, has many drawbacks that would take this out of the likely Republican category. The only one I can really think of is that 2026 is supposed to be a good year for Democrats based on the historicalness of midterm elections after a president is elected. That's the only thing Republicans have going against them in Texas. But in 2024, Donald Trump saw massive gains in Texas compared to 2020. So I'm not really sure how much that will apply. But I do think Cornyn versus Husted, either one will, or Cornyn versus Paxton, will likely result in a Republican win. The question is going to be this potentially very contentious Republican primary. And I do not believe there's any polling yet. Oh, there is some polling, where from the same polling firm, where one that included Cornyn and Paxton had Paxton at 51%, Cornyn 31%. One that did not have Paxton had Cornyn at 35%, and Ronnie Jackson at 14%. So it's looking like the biggest threat to Cornyn winning another term is actually the Republican primary challenger of Ken Paxton. And Paxton's latest indication that he may be running against Cornyn in 2026 sets up a very fascinating situation for the United States Senate election in Texas. So I really want to do a video on this because it seems like we might have more primary challengers in 2026 than usual. We know for sure we're going to have one in the state of Louisiana with Senator Bill Cassidy. It's looking like now we're going to have another one in the state of Texas with John Cornyn and Ken Paxton. And who knows? There's still potential for other Republicans who are not 100% committed to President-elect Trump that a lot of Republicans could be targeting. We're looking at potentially Lindsey Graham in South Carolina, Joni Ernst in Iowa. That could be 4 Senate seats right there that could be potentially primary targets for the Republicans. Of course, that's hypothetical. We'll have to wait and see. But that is certainly one. Tom Tillis in North Carolina. You can't rule out the possibility that, yes, the race will be close no matter what, but this could be a potential primary challenge as well. So this is a very fascinating situation and one I'm certainly keeping an eye on and monitoring because I think this is a very real possibility of seeing a very contentious Republican primary in the 2026 Senate race. I'm interested to hear your thoughts about it. Do you think this is a good move if Paxton does primary challenge Cornyn? Who do you think would win in that potential primary? Leave a comment below telling me what you think. In the meantime, that'll do it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. Please remember to give the video a like, click subscribe, share with your friends and family, and I hope to see you in a future video. That will do it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please remember to give it a like. And if you really liked it, please remember to click the subscribe button and make sure you turn post notifications on so you always get notified when I post a new video. That way you never miss one. Also, please remember to share this video with your friends and family if you really like the video. And remember to stay tuned because I'll be posting at least one video every single day leading up until Election Day. So I'd really appreciate it if you keep coming back and watching those videos. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in a future video.